I saw tonight happen before it happened.
Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
1-1 to Martinez. Swinging a fly ball to right. Pritchett going back to the wall. He looks up and it's gone. J.D. Martinez continues to just pulverize Colorado pitching. That's the 4th home run of his career. He now has 15 RBIs against the Rockies at Coors at a batting average of near 450. Dodgers now with a 4-0 lead.
1-2 pitches, off-speed pitch, and it's hammered down the left field line. Will it stay fair? And it does. It's a big fly for Paul DeYoung. His 12th home run of the year. He got a hanger up and in and did not miss it. 2-1 Houston.
Here's a 2-2 coming. Swinging a high fly ball deep center field. Grisham back, turning around. There it goes! Over the bushes. And at the base of the batter's eye, Nick Gonzalez. A long, soaring home run for the first of his career. And the Pirates lead it 9-4 here in the 7th.
3-2, swing, high fly ball, center field and deep. Siri back onto the track, turns. That one is off the wall. It's gone. 3-run home run for Corbin Carroll. Top of the zone fastball, and Carroll just hammered this ball. I mean, that's where he likes the ball, out over the plate where he can extend his arms. And he extended that ball right over the yellow line in center field.
Boy, is Corbin Carroll something.
Pardon me?
I said, boy, is Corbin Carroll something.
Oh, yeah. Well, me along with everybody, not everybody else, but there were a few of us that picked him as Rookie of the Year. So I didn't go out on a limb. They're going to be
He was the favorite coming in.
I don't know if he was the favorite in the NL. He's in the top 3, at least when I thought about it.
I think he was the favorite, number 1 overall pick, right?
Yeah, it might have been Jordan Walker. Maybe. I have to go back.
He was the number 1 overall.
I have to go back and look.
Prospect. So that could have been the case.
Yeah.
Regardless,
I think it might have been Walker.
Regardless, Corbin Carroll can rake.
Yeah.
I mean that ball went 420 yesterday off the center field backstop.
I learned a lot last night watching baseball.
Just because that's all that was on TV.
Learned a ton. Corbin Carroll's pretty good. Zach Gallen's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all news flashes.
So you learned something new watching the Diamondbacks. Oh, wait, no, we've been on that for how many months now?
I learned that apparently, I wasn't on board with this, but apparently Shohei Ohtani's pretty good.
What makes you say that?
Well,
anybody can hit 2 home runs and strike out 10.
And he got the dub. Yeah, that was decent.
You know who's not very good?
Who's that?
Alek Manoah.
Yeah, oh my gosh. You talk about here today, gone tomorrow. Wowzer.
You're seeing the movie Day After Tomorrow?
Clayton
where that
Kershaw,
big ice storm comes in.
Yeah,
That's
Clayton Kershaw took his no into the 6th, and we made a big deal about it. And I was like, why are we talking about this on the broadcast? Maybe when he gets to the 7th. Maybe.
No big deal.
But we're all for early. You know, he's probably only got another inning left.
But it's Clayton Kershaw.
Oh, I know.
So you talk about that all game long. Hey, in the 2nd, he struck out the first 3
quietly. He's got 10 dubs,
which is something that would normally be truth if the Dodgers are the Dodgers of like the last 5 years.
But they just
won like 50 games at this point, but they haven't.
I wouldn't
so that's
say
impressive.
Limping along, but they're not. They haven't been like, turn the lights out. I mean, they have 44 wins. So, but they're still in 3rd place in that division. But so it was
but if he's contributed to 10 of those wins,
a lot of learning that I didn't know last night.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Did you also know? Well, I'm sure since you didn't know this either, that the Mets have the highest payroll in baseball.
Yeah,
they're still 7 games back from 500.
So apparently they have an owner that is good at making a lot of money.
That is true.
And
I believe he's the richest owner in all of baseball.
Yep, I heard that rumor. I think I think he has given. I also heard that he gave, for some ungodly reason, Buck Showalter a vote of confidence. Buck usually gets it going, though. Buck usually wears out his welcome. He usually doesn't start out crappy. Buck's one of those guys that typically grades on you over time. But, hey, listen. It is what it is. I'm glad we introduced you a little bit yesterday to like luxury tax and spending
in
money
NBA,
and hard and soft caps. And that was all off air. But the Mets will be one of those teams. That's why the Cubs had to dump payroll so quickly over the last 3 years, because they were about to be in their third
Well, they loaded up for the World Series.
They were going to get to that 5%, and they're on the verge of losing draft picks. So, but in the NBA, it always comes out usually about now. Hey, revenue is going to be 200, or not revenue. Cap's going to be 218 million or whatever. I was like, hey, Google what Golden State's paying in luxury tax to the rest of the league. Yeah, it's almost 400 mil.
Mm-hmm. It actually, I think, is over 400 mil.
They needed that new arena because you're going to be giving away some money.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it was a lot of learning going on last night. It was a very slow sports night.
Definitely was, unless you were out on the softball diamonds at Kelly.
Yeah,
because balls were coming fast at me.
I even watched like Vacation last night. I didn't even know that movie was out. Like Rusty was a grown-up, and they were going to Wally World.
Such a good movie.
Have you? So you've seen that with Christina Applegate, Debbie Do Everything, or Debbie Do Anything?
I've seen every Vacation movie.
Yeah, I laughed pretty hard.
The Vegas one is funny too,
and it was so stupid. It was
the Vegas one's the worst one.
It's still funny.
Wait,
didn't say it was the best.
One of the OGs. By the way, Chevy Chase did not look good in that movie.
He hasn't looked good for like 10 years.
Well, I'm not up on old Chevy Chase there, Shane. It's the first time I'd seen him in a minute. Even though I think that movie came out in like 2016 or something.
Is that really when it came?
Vacation? Listen, I didn't even know it was a thing. I just was scrolling and I heard the music.
2015. Oh, well done.
How do they roll? And I was like, oh, this is gonna. It was fudge. It was almost 10. I was like, I'll go back and watch it. But then when they were scrolling all the pictures as not the credits, but the movie was going to start, like none of the people were who I was used to seeing. I was like, who are these kids? Wait, is this a new family?
It does look like a new one.
And then it turned out to be, what's his buckets from The Office?
Ed Helms.
Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's kind of in a lot of those weird comedies, like The Hangover.
Yeah. I've only seen the first two. I didn't see them all.
Well, one of the original girls
here we go.
Passed away, R.I.P. And then
the one that was mad that she was putting on weight. She had the braces.
And then then you got the Uncle Eddie.
Yeah.
He's in Canada still?
Yeah, chilling. I think he lost his mind.
Yeah. So a couple of the guys still aren't there.
Yeah, Chevy Chase was doing bad. Beverly D'Angelo did not look like herself either. Well, that's okay. People get older. So I was like, it's a lot going on. So then what I do after 10:30.
You don't want to talk about what you did before 10:30?
No. No. My sprinkler still didn't come on this morning either. So maybe
we're still asking. I think the Eagle call is out.
So listen though, here's the thing.
The bat signals
for 2 months it was fine, and messed with a couple of things, and it's been hit and miss since.
We're gonna be all right.
My yard does look immaculate though, so I'm not whining about that.
How about Sauter grabbing the scissors yesterday? And trimming.
I know Adam thought he was being funny.
He didn't know what he was actually starting.
No. I tried.
I was losing it when you had said, it's over now.
Dude, he's neurotic.
I would agree, Damon.
I'm serious.
Mm-hmm. That's his personality.
And so when he zoomed in on the blades of grass that were over, I said, "Oh, it's over now." And Sauter was. I want to read his text.
I couldn't believe
the expletives that he used to be mad that somebody got on him about a couple of blades of grass over the sidewalk. No way.
No, I was going to say I couldn't believe how nice he was when he came back on Twitter and just did it. Like it was snarky, but it wasn't sautery.
He got all the expletives out on over text.
Probably,
yeah.
But normally he
six,
saves that
yeah.
type of fire for
6, 7 F-bombs.
Twitter. No, he doesn't. He doesn't throw F-bombs on Twitter.
My man had scissors. Scissors. I said, why can't you just let him enjoy himself? Like, this dude's going to lose.
So was that at his in-laws' house that he's cutting that grass?
No, because that's his.
But I thought he moved.
Did
he not move yet?
No, he doesn't have to be out until July 26th.
Do you think he'll keep sending photos at his in-laws' house? Like he's going to revamp his mother-in-law's lawn?
He's not going to make it. He's not going to make it.
He's never coming out of the basement.
Not going to make it. You are.
Yeah.
It's not a snowball's chance in heck. He's nuts.
I don't know.
What are the odds on that? Like for him to make it out?
I give it 2 months.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
I mean,
but what is the standard? Like until he complains like 5 times?
I don't know. Probably until she
complains.
threatens not to pay for his cell phone or something. Child care. I don't know.
Throw him under the bus.
I don't know. Something like that. I may just be playing. You never know with me.
Sometimes you're never playing.
Sometimes I'm a little sarcastic.
You're always serious.
No, I wasn't. I was talking with Coach Rule yesterday, and we're talking about Quinn Clark because remember.
Yep, I remember.
Yeah, that was on a humbug. So we went back.
You sent the information.
Yeah, we went back and looked. He goes, "Was that you or was that Vershawn?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "But let me go back." And January 11th, I sent that film because his uncle sent it to me on social media. I kind of told this story. So anyway, short story long. He's like, "Yeah." Just keep firing them over, because there's been a couple now. And I said, "Yeah, I only got one left in 2024.
And you know, pretty close
that I need to send over." In typical Coach Rule response, "Yeah, that'd be a good one. Get on that." It's like I'm so done with it. I mean, just snark. Just
because iron sharpens iron.
You do surround yourself with a lot of snarky people.
No, but sometimes, okay. So yes and no, because I can't. Snarky is one thing. Just don't be Just don't be negative. Snark, and they don't have to be the same thing. Snark is cool. You're right. I got a couple buddies. Oklahoma Tyler was in rare form this weekend. I didn't mess with him too much though. He's kind of crabby. I think he had seen too much basketball. So we kind of got it in and out. But, I mean, Verzal, you're right. There's my buddy Omaha Ryan. I just call him Omaha Ryan because I know a couple of Ryan Peters. I know, like, snark is a thing. It's not really my thing, though.
Which is why I think it's funny. Like, this is a –
I think it's just – I think
it's of opposites attract.
Bacon wrap. I mean, Amazing Daniels. Some guys are like that.
I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. There could be bacon involved.
I think Schaefer, super snarky.
Yeah, I think it keeps your life really exciting.
I thought he was on his way up here. Weren't we switching him around today, Shane? Because we got passing league over at Prep. I think he was heading up here for that.
Are you bouncing again?
No. See, the only reason I only do like the super important stuff when it comes to missing work. Like when we get ready to start doing our install and team camp in July, that's why I'll be gone in July. But that's the only time. Like the passing league, that's everyday stuff. By the way, we had a lady, man, her husband's probably listening, so I apologize in advance. But why in the world would you videotape summer league basketball? Would you? There's like 25 people in the gym. Although both coaches did lose their mind at one point.
What are you taping? Are you taping just the
I don't
player
know,
individually
probably
or
their kiddo?
Okay, so what if it's like a TikTok thing?
Yeah, that would be awful. Benefit of the doubty.
Just saying.
Is that can I? Is
Because
that
I know somebody in your household that loves to put his highlights on TikTok.
Yeah, he's in the 7th grade.
But hey, maybe mom's doing it for the so-called 7th grader in this scenario.
Yeah,
I don't know if
except
it was a 7th grader.
It's high school.
And regardless, maybe he's got the IQ of a 7th grader.
To each their own. But
Hey,
there's like seriously though, there's only like, and they were all the other team. Our parents. I don't know. They must not watch summer league. There are a couple, like Alvin was there, and a couple of other parents. But man, the other 2 schools were deep. Maybe it's because it was Miller North and WS.
Okay,
WS has some sweet summer jerseys. They're like the Phoenix Suns with the purple, the yellow, the orange.
me likey
flames. They're kind of cool. They just say BW, but I'm like, dang, they got sweet summer jerseys. We've been wearing these for like 5 years.
get on that.
No, it's not that big.
I don't care.
It's not that big of a deal. And then and now I'm on this dog thing around the neighborhood because our poop people came like twice in a week, and I think there was some miscommunication. But their son, it's a family-owned business, but their son had some health issues, so they missed maybe a week. And so I think they were making up for lost time. But we have a lot of big dogs in our neighborhood.
That we do.
And I got some little punks. So
That think they're bigger than they are?
Buddha does. The young one does. Not Biggie. Biggie's like slow motion is better than no motion, right? Like he's chill. But I got to thinking about your fiance's TikTok, and she was not happy with somebody that did not have their dog on a leash. And I want to know where that dog is, because that has to be close to us. You're right down the street.
She would have gone right out of our little cul-de-sac, and to get to your house, we would have to go left. So I believe it was kind of like right at that intersection.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you in October, because your neighborhood, like that little strip right there, they do it right for Halloween.
Oh, well, we have a house on the corner that I know will go nuts.
So they're not alone. That whole
area, patch?
Yeah, they get it in.
Yeah, we don't have any decorations of any sort.
That's okay.
No Halloween.
That's okay.
No Christmas.
Go be friendly.
No nothing.
Just go.
This is what it's going to turn into. On my driveway or right at the little cul-de-sac, I'm gonna put the bonfire pit there. Put some logs on.
Yeah. Hey,
have the bowl of candy.
Offer some beers or something.
Well, that's what. So I'll have an adult cooler, and I'll have a a kid bowl.
That's very Mama Rogers of you. Very
accommodating.
accommodating.
I see.
She actually wouldn't hand out like the adult stuff.
Well, I could see that.
But
I meant being like a gracious host. I could see her.
Yes, that's her in a nutshell.
I could see.
Yeah.
But so back to this whole dog thing, like some of these fences that we have,
they don't.
There's no way. Like if those
animal.
dogs wanted to like bounce, they would.
Mm-hmm. Even a chain link fence. I talk about that if Molly was younger, because she gets excited with our neighbors next door. She could hop over that fence if she was
Cyrus
3 years younger.
Listen, there's a dog just diagonal. It's not catty corner because it's not on the corner. He's probably like 3 doors down.
Like the musician.
Yep. I mean, this dog has got to be like 6 foot.
If you go crazy, would you call them Superman? If you're alive and well, would you be there
you're
holding on to the dog?
You're so funny. So the whole dog thing has me shook now around our neighborhood. But I've never really
head on a swivel.
I've never really been afraid of dogs, but there's some big dogs.
Well, I mean, I remember telling this story to you maybe a month ago. Maybe it was 2 months ago about the lady that was mad that our big black lab that had traveled with my parents when they were walking on the path was mad that he went up and like kind of like sniffed toward her, and she wanted to throw hands.
Listen, there's a lady that bikes in our or walks in our neighborhood that's like that. I don't mess with her. She tries to be friendly now, and you know me, I just keep it pushing now. I'm like, yeah, a couple choice words for no reason. Like, I know it was 96, and I'm sure you were on your 117th mile, but that was a little extra. It's a little
way
extra.
To give her the benefit of the doubt on that 117.
Oh no, she was huffing.
119. Was she huffing because she made it 3 miles or because she made it 117?
Just imagine this though, like old school perm, headband, had the Hoikas, the socks were like right at the calf.
So this is like total ladies. Were they all neon?
She was solo, and I mean she was. When you wear the wristband back on the original spot of where the wrist goes, that's some Jane Fonda type stuff, right? Hanoi Jane. So you know, I didn't want to knock the hustle, but
did she look like a crossing guard?
It's like,
is that the clothing?
This was as I could hear breathing behind me. To the right, move to the right, stay to the right.
That's what she's saying.
I was like, cool. Let me.
You know what I've done before?
So
I've gone in the grass.
No, so listen. So you know me though. Like I'm gonna think about, okay, what could I have? Because I want to control me, right? So what could I have done differently?
Mm-hmm.
I probably should have been over to my right about another 1.5 feet. But would I have talked to somebody like that? Probably not. So I wasn't like in my feels because I think I was in the wrong, and I can own that. But man, she was.
Were you
selfish.
on the trail by the playgrounds? Where were you walking at?
Yeah, so you know the park, right? There's the tennis courts and the chain link fence.
Okay, so her case would make sense if there was a line painted down the middle.
No, there's not. Oh, and I know.
But because there isn't, you can walk wherever you want on that path.
Full disclosure, like if I wanted to be nitpicky, the part that lines the softball field, and it's just like normal width.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get wide until you get to the walking path through the park. But it's just how she talked to me. You know, I'm kind of a baby. Tone, man. Tone matters.
Tone matters.
Nobody can do that
in every situation, whether it's what you're reading on Twitter or a text,
whether coach says to you that'd be a good idea. Let's get on that.
You in a good mood or what?
Yeah, I was fine. I laughed. You had some jokes yesterday.
No doubt to me about that.
His buddy did hit a hole in one. Patton did hit the hole in one.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm jealous. I can't even see Patton being excited. He's so buttoned up. He's a stud. He's a stud. Smart dude. Really smart. Like
those birds just smacked
the window. Did you hear that?
They came flying in and just rammed into the window.
How is he still moving?
I have no clue. He's standing up.
Man.
No, if they would have came in through the window at that speed, I would have ran because that would have been some like bird box stuff. Put the blindfolds on.
Hey, Shane, when are we going to start doing the NFL? Pretty soon. I want to start doing some NFL stuff too. I know we're a smidge early.
Well,
I want to know. Like,
are you early when people are like plastering on their Twitter pages that they've done a mock draft already?
Listen, is Micah Parsons really going to just rush the passer now? I know they floated this 2 months ago, but like on his IG, this dude is like 250.
He can get to the quarterback.
I was like, oh, he's serious about why he didn't go to camp. He was bulking up. You're just going to rush the passer?
Maybe that's what he just wants sacks.
They'll run at him.
Count him up. We'll take a break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, Brian Christopherson coming up at 8 o'clock. We have Kevin Sjuts at 8:30, and we'll talk NHL draft, NHL trades at about 9:30. And then you're going to love it, DB.
No, I won't.
It's not two for you today.
Oh, man, that's my jam.
We're doing a new game.
Oh, Lord.
A game that makes you think.
Dun, dun, dun.
The game is called Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh, like the movie?
Like the movie, because it's presented by Dingman's.
Oh, you know what? And I figured out, since you said Gone in 60 Seconds, Vin Diesel, I figured out what I watched after 10. I thought it was going to be...
Not Vin Diesel and Gone in 60 Seconds.
Nope, another light-skinned bald guy. San Andreas with The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on after Jack Reacher because I thought I was going to get a rerun of Jack Reacher. And they didn't. Because you know how
so you were waiting around for Reacher, and it never came on.
I was like, dang, this little girl just went over the cliff in her car. Why is the helicopter rescue people? Like, where's Jack Reacher? But it wasn't Jack Reacher. So I changed the channel. I don't even like The Rock like that. But, I mean, I get it. He's rich. Although, gosh, did you see the XFL got crushed?
Yeah.
What did he lose? Was it 60 mil?
Mm-hmm. That's like what, $600 for him?
Probably year one of a business. I think you're probably cool. You know, you're going to absorb some loss.
You're expecting to take a loss.
I still thought the XFL to watch was still a little bit better product than the USFL to watch on television, even though I think the talent's about the same.
I think the XFL this year was better than the first year they came out.
The
and
crowd,
they had a ton of hype in year one.
Had fun. So I don't even know why we started on that. We went to break with Micah Parsons. We come back with you telling me about Crazy Stupid Love or something like that.
Well, that was in break. Yep.
I mean,
that's what I watched yesterday.
Just don't fall in love. Like that's the easy part. Like just don't do it to begin with, and then it's not a problem. What?
Well,
I know it's too late for some of you.
Most people need a companion or want a companion.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. The whole biblical principle, man, was not meant to be alone. But whatever. Give me my rib back. What?
And then you could eat all the apples you wanted.
In that movie, Vacation, did you see when he fed the cow the rib?
It's just funny.
And the kid goes, "Dad, isn't that cannibalism?" I don't even know.
It's funny because
I'm talking about a movie like it just came out.
Like the lines people come up with to, portray a comical scene. Like who is writing that line?
Oh, hey Shane, what's Thor's name again in real life?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look.
Helms. It's Helms something.
Chris Hemsworth.
Yes, him. He was kind of funny.
Helms. You were on Ed Helms still.
Oh, one of them. I mean, guys.
They don't look the same.
Kind of.
What about them's the same?
Peach.
Yep. Oh, they both have dimples.
Yeah, exactly. Did you see the final number of the Jell-O shots?
It was only 68,000.
No. I think I got to find it, but I could have sworn I saw it get to 90.
Mm-hmm.
Did it get to 90?
So
is that pinned?
No.
Don't read the pinned one.
The pinned one is 21,000.
Okay,
this was
so
when the record was broken. The last tweet that they made.
Are you sure?
It reads, "Heroes get remembered, but legends never die. This year will be talked about for the ages. Thanks to LSU baseball faithful and all the fans that made it fun. Thanks to Javo. Is that the Jello that they use? Oh, it's the gelatin shot prep machine that they use for making an absolutely absurd amount of delicious shots. Thank y'all for following along." It says 68,888.
That's a lot.
Well, that's
still
what,
think it's
like
more than
450,000. Because if you take carry the two, I don't
no.
know.
Well, the 90 would have been, which is what I thought it was. That would have been. I'm bad at math, but
yeah, you're right. That would have only been 350,000.
That would have been like the total, probably.
Shane, what do you? What?
Maybe that's what you saw. The total number of shots. So I'm only reading LSU's total.
Yeah, the total number.
So
of
that
shots.
would make sense.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of Jello.
That is a ton.
Yes, sir.
But is it fun when they're already pre-made, or are you just trying to survive like Gloria Gaynor and keep?
I think it's just fun making money.
Yeah. And how much of that are they giving away? Like 5%?
No, I think they give away like close to half, don't they?
No.
Last year, that's what I thought they did in their letter. They gave away half.
Well, I'll meet you halfway. How about 25%?
Oh man, I wonder if I can scroll back to that letter.
As my man Mike Boker would say, "Nice show prep, DB." Well, I can't. I wouldn't have known how much we were giving away in charity. I haven't been to Rocco's. I wonder.
I gotta scroll it.
I gotta ask him in his business model.
Okay.
Does he just is he really just gonna make his nut in like 2 weeks, like old school Polly's?
Yeah, I mean, so the Blatz only opened during the CWS, right? So that's like Rocco's could pull that off.
Yeah, but the rent is considerably different. No, it actually wouldn't be. It would be equally as high. By the way, I saw how that's on Mike Fahey Boulevard. I saw Mike Fahey a couple weekends ago. My man had on a pink golf polo with a blue Creighton logo. And I said, even when you're back in town, you're still repping the Jays. What? Okay, you're driving me crazy. You're reading like me. Do you need my readers?
No, I'm just leaning forward a little bit.
What are you trying to read?
Well, it's small font, so I'm just trying to see.
Not print, it's font. You're a funny dude. You're a funny man. Okay.
Okay. So this was in 2022. They donated $2 for every shot, which if every shot is $5, that's close. Yeah, that's close to 50%.
40%. 2 of 5. Good job, mathematician.
Yeah, well, you round up.
No. Jamie would be proud of me. Shane, are you fielding calls or what are you doing? Because you talk really loud.
I'm trying to talk really slow or really softly. But yeah, it was somebody just relaying that exact information that you just
I just read.
Yeah,
40%.
Well, I appreciate whoever called in.
40%.
Yeah,
that is great.
So they give away, I think. Well, if it is 40%, do you think it's 20 to a local charity here, or spread around local charities here, and then 20?
I think it's to the respective cities of the colleges. Each.
Oh, really? So it's
like
every college. I thought it was only the winning college.
So, okay, this could be completely made up. And I don't know how we got on this topic when I want to talk about Micah Parsons weighing in at 255. But I think it's a percentage of each of your team's shots. So, like, Stanford's barely getting any money because they didn't really drink. LSU, their charity is going to get a ton of money because I think it's a percentage of what your team did, not total to all the towns that are represented.
Okay, so last year, Ole Miss obviously won, but Arkansas came in a close second, if I'm correct.
Meet Virginia, yeah.
Somebody can fact check me on that. I think that's how it went. So this is how the letter officially read last year. It says $2 for every Jell-O shot that has been purchased or will be purchased by each school's fans to the June B. Gerhardt Full Circle Pantry at the University of Arkansas and the Grove Food Pantry at Ole Miss.
So it
took the leaders and then sent it to them.
Those institutions.
So I would assume since LSU put away $68,000 that they would just get it all for their charities.
Who was the next closest?
Oh man. Take a guess.
Florida. They were there the next longest.
Wake Forest was actually second.
Wow, efficient sons of guns.
With only 7,600.
How does a school that has only like 5,000 people go there put away the second most shots? Doesn't Wake only have like 5,000 students?
I don't know.
Not sure on that, but I mean, even Oral Roberts had 3,300.
And they don't drink.
Yeah.
Oh, allegedly.
Well, you sign a form, right? That means like you're signing your life away to Golden Eagle forever.
Wake has a small enrollment. It's got to be around 5,000. I mean, that's an itty bitty little place. What? Why are you laughing? Am I right?
You're pretty darn close.
Let's go.
8,900, close to 9,000.
And that's probably not just undergrad. I'm talking undergrad.
Yeah, this just says, and this was total enrollment in 2021.
Yeah.
So I
bet it's about
5,500
undergrad. But anyway, my point is, how are they even good at sports? That's a small number.
Yeah. They've built credibility over the years, though.
Good on them. Wanted to see them win, but that's okay. Don't laugh.
You want to talk about Micah Parsons when we come back?
I like the NFL, my man.
We'll take a break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Good morning. Did you just wake up? Did you just tune in? Where are you catching us right now? Is it on 590 ESPN Radio? Is it live on Twitter? Live on YouTube? We are on Hail Varsity Radio and Hurrdat Sports YouTube pages. That's a big fly that just flew right by my face.
I think they call those horse flies.
Now, I don't think it was a horse fly, but it was just a giant fly.
How you know it wasn't a horse fly? Did you see him like firsthand?
Oh, yeah. We made eye contact.
You're like, hey, what's up?
Mm-hmm. And then he flew by me like, I'm just looking for something nasty to rest my face into.
I have a fly swatter at home, but I never use it.
Do you ever have those bug zappers? Like
No,
the ones
but
that like electrocute them?
In my garage, I have some tape, and I have some mosquito paper. I did see that malaria is alive and well down in Florida.
Oh.
2 cases.
Yeah, so don't go to Florida anytime soon.
Dude, weird things happen in Florida. And speaking of which,
we'll talk to our man in Florida. Shane, let's go to line 1. Michigan Lance here with us on the show. What's up, man?
Hey, good morning, boys.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good. Anybody down there got malaria?
Oh, yeah, we're a little bit up further north. Has it gotten up this way, man?
I saw 3, was it 2 or 3 reported cases?
Yeah, that was in like Tampa, though, right? Tampa area, I thought.
Probably south.
Yeah, I'm not great with geography, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, it was more south of it. Yeah, it was more south. We're good up here, man. Good up on the north side.
Hey, your guy's gonna make his announcement tomorrow at 10 a.m. Mr. Pfeiffer.
Oh, really?
Yes,
okay,
sir.
that'll be interesting. Didn't he just come from out of town or something too?
Yep, just on a visit. I think the experts will tell you it is between Nebraska and the Fighting Illini of Illinois.
Oh, I like that. I like the.
No,
I like the Illinois.
Quietly, Illinois has done a good job. They have.
Have they?
Yeah, it was weird to see them show up so much in the whatever season that was, spring.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they have a presence. Illinois
I mean, well, especially linemen, and then it looks like Pitt. Pitt is trying to make a presence in Nebraska. What's that about?
Yeah, I think Narduzzi just doesn't. I don't want to make this up and say, "Hey, man, I heard on the radio." He appears to have a thing for Coach Rule. I don't know if it goes back to not getting Pickett when.
Okay.
But it's
okay.
I don't know. Like he sent he had the little snarky tweet when Ingerson was up there.
Yourself with snarky people.
He he had the emojis and lock it up and the lock and the eyes and Ingerson was still in Pittsburgh. Like he wasn't even back from his visit yet. So I was like, that's kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, I thought that was wild. Hey, man, you gotta love the off-season competition.
No,
that's a great deal.
It's
fun to talk about too.
It is high. I screened a couple of calls on Friday because I knew we were going to be up against the dead period, so I just had to buy myself some time till the 26th of some schools that I just don't think we're going to be interested in. And I was like, I am not getting this phone call because I know you're a good guy, but I don't want to talk to you. Trying to give the advantage to the home team. Bad dad.
Now, what about Carter Nelson? Did he make a decision today?
I think it's today. It's today, right?
Oh, yeah, today at 10. Okay.
You'd have to assume Nebraska.
I think that is what also the experts are leaning.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll say this.
Where the crystal balls?
Hey, Nebraska's batting pretty well.
Yep.
Nebraska's batting pretty well when it comes to these early commits, right?
Yeah, they're on a hot streak right now.
Listen, and if you would have said that 2.5 months ago, people would have looked at you like you're crazy. I mean, quietly, they've done a good job of getting back in there. They just play hardball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, man.
Listen, it's not. I can't wait. Like they are not. It is not. Do what you want to do. It's you'll do what we need you to do, and hopefully you'll meet us somewhere in the middle. We good? Okay, we're good.
Well, hey, man, look what happens when you just show the love to. When you show the love to the people who deserve the love.
Yeah.
Like nobody ever said that Nebraska football should recruit every kid out of Nebraska.
Yeah. So
but you can't lose the good ones.
We were at 7-on-7 the other day, and I had a couple of high school coaches that said that they had seen Nebraska in the offseason more than combined in the last 5 or 6 years at their school.
Oh, wow. Combined? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know whether to be impressed or be sad. I was kind of sad at first. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I think you got to be pretty sad. But you
live in the present.
But at least they're
stay in the moment.
Throwing offers. At least they're not just saying, hey, we're showing up to the schools and offering walk-ons. At least they're giving real scholarship offers. Like, again, to players that deserve them, that should be on your roster, I think he's on the right start off-season wise to build a program. How you build a program so far, he's doing the right things.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
So I definitely give credit when credit is due. Hey, the LSU.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man, how frustrating, I don't know about it for you, but for me, watching Trey Morgan the last 2 games, maybe I watched all 3. Yeah, like the last 3 games, pretty much the championship games, where he's swinging the bat at every pitch with a guy on base. Isn't that the definition of hero ball?
Yeah, listen, though, I'm kind of all in on Morgan. I was over his dad getting all the airtime, but I thought Morgan was I thought he was pretty underappreciated while he was here, man.
I'm cool with going up to the dish and and swinging away, trying to make contact, if you are shortening up your swing. And that's what he was doing. Because if you look at his ABs, look how far he chokes up on his bat. Like, he was just looking to poke one. He wasn't looking to hit one over the fence like Beloso or Tommy Tanks or Cruz or whoever. He was just looking to get on base, and I kind of like the confidence going up to the plate. Now, he was swinging at some pitches that were out of the zone.
On, man. There you go, exactly. Like, clearly. Like, they weren't close. They were all, like, I remember once I swear for about 2 straight at-bats, he swung at every pitch that came. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're not going to look at one to see if it's nice? Every pitch? Like, but then he got some toward the end of the game in the final game. But, yeah, like I think before the series, yeah, he was hitting the ball up. But once he got to the series, man, to me it felt like he was just trying to do too much. I didn't feel like he was. Relax.
I kind of felt like he was a little bit of an unsung hero. But
it's probably because he had that bad mustache, too. We already know the hair is bad, but he can't even line up his mustache. Like, you're not the other guy with the porn stash on the team. Black people line up their facial hair. Looking crazy out here.
Hey, does Paul Skeens get away with it because he is the number 1 overall pick?
No, he gets away because he's white. That's how white guys wear their mustache. They just grow mustache.
Hey, that's just how it grows in, man.
Up or anything.
That's just how it grows in. DB told me to grow out my facial hair, Lance. He told me, he goes, man, just let it go. And nobody wants to see it, but DB, I think, I'm with you. It's kind of like a chia pet. Like, you just kind of water it and it gradually grows.
Man,
listen,
do it together with DB. He struggles a little bit too.
Wow. Hater,
go to DB's barber and just get lined up nice and neat, Andrew. He's been nice and neat.
He's been trying to get in.
Good. He makes DBs look good.
Wow. just on the brothers this morning. Huh?
He makes DB look like Lawrence Fishburne in Boys in the Hood. He has that great beard in Boys in the Hood, but that's not really DB. It's all DB's barber. He does a great job.
Give credit where credit's due.
Wow.
Hey, shout out to Michael Severe on doing the Jet Award, man. I think that's a great hire. Cool. He gives a lot of passion. He got me interested in the Jet Award for so many years. I didn't care about that award, and man, I think he's going to do great at that. Congrats to him.
He's a very hard worker. He's already booked his guests for the Big Red Brunch this year in the off season.
Okay, Michael.
Yeah, I don't know if he has too much free time.
I think he just has.
That might be. That might be it. Hey, are we seeing the best version? We're probably seeing the best version because of the free time of Michael Severe. Not that he was bad before. I'm just saying, so there's certain things that you can, that you release and let go of. Man, you become your best self. So good on him. I like the podcast. Yeah,
Yeah, he's a good dude. Equal opportunity offender, Lance. From Michigan,
living in Florida,
but really from Omaha, living in Florida,
trying to avoid malaria.
I'm
hoping not after his scuds on the brothers this morning. Man,
hey man, I text white males. I got them too. I got them with their mustaches.
Wow.
He's like, I covered my bases today.
Hey, listen, can I get you out of here on this before you get a shutdown again? Do you like the whole DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, Mornay?
Man, I was feeling really good until I talked to one of my buddies. And when I talked to Brandon Williams, right, former Central, former Michigan guy, he was like, DJ Moore is not a number 1, neither is Claypool. Like, DJ Moore is a shrimp. I'm like, hey, man, I'm a fan. Stop raining on my parade. This is the best group of receivers the Bears have ever had, and I'm rolling with it. You're not going to beat Debbie down. You're not going to get me down. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm feeling good. Andrew, this is the best offseason the Bears have ever had.
Hey, I'm feeling good outside of Chase Claypool, man. Like I
mean, can he be a number 2 or a number 3?
I don't know. I just don't.
I don't know either. DB, you had him. DB, what'd you think of him?
I didn't like him.
He had a good 1 year, right? His good rookie year. Was it year 2?
I'm probably the wrong guy to ask.
DB, is he too light-skinned stuff for you? He does too much light-skinned stuff?
Wow. Remember, I used to like you about 5 minutes ago. That was cool.
You're the DB. You cured it. 'Cause your kids don't have light-skin syndrome.
Wow.
What are we doing? You're the new vaccine. Thanks, Lance. Take a break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Here is Husker 24/7 senior writer Brian Christopherson.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of a circus act.
Brian Christopherson.
Oh, I mean, that's pretty interesting.
Brian Christopherson.
I kind of enjoy that.
Here is Brian Christopherson.
Top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. DB, AR, happy to have you with us and happy to be joined at the top of the hour with Brian Christopherson, 8 o'clock in the morning. BC on the show via StreamYard if you are watching at home. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Oh, good. Fantastic. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, I don't know how much I'm going to get to talk to you, BC, because for about the last 40 minutes, all Andrew kept saying is, I'm excited to talk to Brian. I'm excited to talk to BC. I'm excited. So, like, after the fourth time you said it, I was like,
it's exciting.
I'm like, what is your deal? He goes, well, we didn't get to talk to him last week.
That's right? We didn't talk to him last week.
And I was just like, so apparently old Andrew is going through BC withdrawals.
Well, he's in the company of one that's having that situation. So.
And that's why I like BC right there.
It's just self-deprecating enough to make it work. BC, how about my man Quinn Clark, right? Like kind of the definition of how they like to recruit. I was going back and forth with Coach yesterday, and I said he didn't get that film until it was January 11th. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon. Sent it over Twitter. However many months later, however many camps later, probably 5 or 6, he commits. Is that just not how they recruit? It's like,
yeah,
hey, we're going to evaluate. We're going to see you. How much effort are you going to put forth? Do you really want to be here? Okay, let's make this thing work. Like that, his recruitment is kind of them in a nutshell.
Yeah. Cool story, too, because Quinn Clark kind of spoke that one into the air because he did an interview with, I believe it was Brandon Huffman of 24/7 Sports a few months ago, and he really didn't have any offers at the time. But he was speaking about Nebraska and just that dream school. He put it out there, which a lot of kids won't do, before the offer comes. They don't want to have that, and maybe you don't get the offer. But he's flat out said it. Yeah, that's a school I want. That's where my dad went. Of course, Husker fans of a certain age think very highly of the late Ken Clark. I know I do. He was one of those guys when I was a kid that I loved watching, and I remember him outdueling Barry Sanders, and not outdueling, but he went toe-to-toe with him in 1988 in that 63-42 game. So to see his son, much bigger than his father, he's got a lot of height on him. He could be a tight end, could be a wide receiver. The fun part was they even worked him out at linebacker, just to see, let's test you in all facets. Let's see what you're all about when he was in town. And I believe he got the offer with his mom on the field with him. So that's pretty sweet.
Hearing Quinn say that he didn't commit on the spot because he didn't feel confident in his abilities to succeed at Nebraska was kind of a weird thing to hear. Just by hearing that, you wouldn't think, hey, this is a guy you'd want on your team, as if the belief and the confidence isn't there. But BC, how do you break that down? If you see that quote, because that's a quote I read, I think it was on the Omaha World Herald yesterday. If you see that quote, is it just taken out of context, my line of thinking there, or do you think a move like this could eventually maybe haunts a tough word to use, maybe too harsh of a word, haunt this staff down the line and making a move like this and thinking, hey, we can get this guy to get his confidence up and his belief up?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think they're going to offer people just out of a courtesy. I mean, this is too high level over there for them to just offer because, your dad played here, this or that. You've got to go earn it, and he earned it at camp. And sure. I didn't see the specific quote, so I can't speak really well to it. But I do know from covering recruiting, it's not uncommon for guys when those first offers are rolling in that are big time, like Power 5 offers, and Nebraska was his first, to be like, wow, that's a real thing. Like, it takes a moment for that to settle with some guys, because you're always, even though you're confident in yourself as a kid growing up, you've been a good athlete through junior high and all that stuff, there is that next level where you always wonder, am I one of those guys? Am I one of those Power 5 players? And until you get a few of those, sometimes that just kind of hangs in the air. And I think it's just kind of a natural human tendency to, do I belong with those guys? Because this guy over here's got 15 offers and I don't have any yet, and so I could see where it could come from that place without having seen that specific quote.
Strictly reactionary.
Hey, so BC, and sometimes kids are just kind of real in the moment, right? Like it all of a sudden dawns on you, like, "Oh man, I'm here." I think it, and I don't, know him well enough to know for sure, but it could have been one of those in the moments thing. Let me ask you about when we're watching this thing unfold, and whether we listen to high school coaches, whether we're listening to the players that have been recruited. I was saying this the other day on Benning Bites. We said it yesterday on the show. Do you remember a time where people kept using the word adult so frequently over the last 4 or 5 months? Is it just me, or does it seem like the reference to being an adults keeps coming up with this staff?
Yeah, obviously when you hear that, it's usually coming from someone who doesn't think the last crew or the head coach had everything in order. I mean, that seems to be where that stems from, or didn't have the details in order, I should say. And I think that's why that phrase keeps coming to the surface, is because people are just watching like how fast this staff is moving and how many bases they're covering. And it seems like there's answers for all these different things. And they're thinking like they got to be dialed in to be doing all this stuff. I mean, even the month of June, just like the whirlwind that it was, and working those camps, as such, and having the commitment flurry they've had, you've got to have your ducks in a row. So I think that's where it comes from. And also I believe, it's just a look back at Rule's resume, and, believing because there's enough data, more data probably than the guy had established, that he's done this at multiple places. He has a certain way of doing things. There's a trust in how they do things. We could go back to Quinn Clark. They trust their evaluation. They don't need to offer a guy because he has 4 stars or 25 offers. If they believe in what their eyes told them on the field after camping him for a few hours or a day or so, and watching film and doing the research, they're going to go with it. So I just think people have kind of put all that together, and they feel good right now. And of course, this is a honeymoon period. You haven't lost a game yet. But right now it's one of those deals where everything seems like, man, they do have an answer for that. And they're busy working this over here. And it just seems like they're balancing a lot of things and doing it pretty effectively in the off season.
BC, the Huskers recruiting class currently sits or ranks at 16th in the country. That number could drop with Nelson announcing his commitment today and Pyfrom tomorrow. Do they end up with both at Nebraska? Yes or no?
I don't know what Pyfrom's going to do. I don't have a great read on that, so I'll just let him at this point.
He's been extremely quiet.
Yeah. I know a week or two ago we felt pretty good at our site about Nebraska on that one, but I'm not as sure today, so I don't know. Honestly, I'm like this with this stuff. When it gets down to the last 24 to 48 hours with the guy and he's going to announce, I'm sort of like, let's let him have that moment. I'm not here to play necessarily be that guy who's
decide.
Yeah, if he picks Illinois or Nebraska or whatever, good for him, and you wish him well on that journey. But at this point, I'm not going to get too much into the prediction game. Obviously, with Carter Nelson, there's a good feeling there because everybody's been paying attention to the quotes coming out of the weekend. And it seems like almost everybody who was here, except for a guy or two, committed. And so you're sort of just waiting for announcements to come out. So if Nelson commits to Nebraska, as many are suspecting, I believe by our 24/7 sports rankings, they would move from 16th to 13th. Don't hold me to that, but I think that's what the calculator showed the other day. So that's a heck of a deal from a class that, their first guy came on February 20th and Roger Gradney. And they had 9 guys in this class when I set off on vacation to Minnesota, and Andrew missed me so much. And now they have 19, could be 20.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with the original and Gradney. You hear these little rumblings that may or may not stick around, which is kind of weird. But BC, how much of that, especially in your business, is volume? Or do you get into quality versus quantity when it comes to rankings and just the volume of guys that they have in this class, which is a fair amount?
Yeah, I mean, the volume definitely helps the ranking. There's no doubt about that. And I've I've always been a guy who does appreciate like this, the average star rating thing. So I'll have to go through that and see where Nebraska stacks up. If you actually go by like, what's the average rating of the player compared to all the other schools. And maybe they won't be as high in that category, but that also goes back to Damon, them not really caring about that. You know what I mean? Not caring that like 24/7 Sports or whatever site you look at has this guy rated here because we believe in him. If he were a 2-star, it wasn't rated. So I don't think they would worry too much about that. But your question is a good one because it is worth reminding. The more guys you stack up, it does help that rating. And certainly that, you know, the more swings you take, though, it also gives you the more chances to hit base hit.
Yep.
So there's that part too.
We're talking to Brian Christopherson, senior writer for Husker 24/7 at Husker 247BC on Twitter. Hey, we talked to Brunsey last week about emotional security, and it led me to think of this, BC. We know the players have their teammates and coaches to lean on every single day. Physically, they have all the resources too, with nutritionists, meal plans, workouts, things like that. But what about like the mental side of it all? How impactful do you think it is to have a sports psychology team to help find ways and take care of the football stressors that can get overlooked? And frankly, I guess another question too, that is it common for programs to have that?
Yeah, I mean, I think most programs obviously cover the sports psychology part of it, but I don't know how much like on the visits that is. That'd be an interesting story. Like if to ask recruits, like, does Nebraska put that in front of kids a little bit more than others? Like, here's how we deal with mental health and things of this nature. We're going to have all these people on the ride with you when you're in Lincoln. It's not just you by yourself. It was actually Roger Gradney, the first commit of this class. I was interviewing him about his visit, and he really spoke highly of that. Like on this trip to Lincoln, that was a big part of it. He said there was like talk of the mental health, and he just really made an impression on him that it's not just him coming here without family, but they're going to circle him with a lot of different people from a lot of different avenues with skill sets that can help him in different areas, including the mental part. And so obviously that's become something I think in the last few years we're way more comfortable talking about in our society than we were even 5 years ago when I was doing this. You didn't just hear kids talk about it a lot. But, you know, Omar Manning was very upfront about that, like dealing with mental health things and stuff like that. And I think it's something that Nebraska's really leaned into, and as they should. And it's very effective with recruits, and also just the right thing to have in your program and to put it in front of people.
Basically, my resident Texas buddy that follows Nebraska is my right-hand man when it comes to kind of being a sounding board, right? I pit it against what other schools around the country are doing. He follows Nebraska close. He said, when is the last time you felt like administration, the support staff, the coaching staff, and the players were all aligned during a tenure? And at first blush, I couldn't really answer the question. I almost wanted to go back to the 90s.
Yeah, you would have to.
Right. Okay. Is that where you're at with it too? Because that's what it feels like at first blush.
Yeah. For everything you're talking about, every category of that question,
admin, coaches, players, all aligned.
It'd have to be the Osborne era.
It's kind of scary, but good.
Because if you think about, obviously, Solich, it wasn't exactly.
Admin wasn't on board.
Yeah, not everybody's on board. And then after that, it goes every which way, and you can find one or two that were off. So it's definitely the Osborne era. And even there were times in that one, there would be somebody who I think maybe saw things a little differently. So it's hard to do, but it's a good point, because I feel like from the outside looking in, it is the closest they've been to that in a long time. And again, this is the off season. Everybody's feeling great right now and walking tall. So you gotta keep that in mind. But, just even the way like Ted Carter is involved with this thing as the NU president, and, he was a big Rule guy even when this process started. He always brings up that story how he remembers watching his Temple team warm up, like go full on physical, ball before the game against Navy, and then they smoked him 34-10. Never left his mind. He's like, that guy intrigues me, and he has a pretty good relationship with Rule, it seems. So yeah, I would say from all parts right now, there's a pretty good feeling of everybody's rowing the same way.
It seems like Nebraska sets themselves up too to not make a mistake. And, kind of speaking of messing up here, because I remember, I don't know, was it Sunday that we saw the cryptic tweet from Coach Rule about saying like, oh my God, they really messed up.
Yeah.
Did we get an answer for that yet? Like, does anybody know the answer to what he was referring to, BC?
No, I didn't see it till a day or so later. And I'm not big enough to think it was anything to deal with us, but I do have the type of mind where if somebody says something like that, I always like, he's talking about us, isn't he? Or something like that. But no, I don't know what that was about, but we'll have to at some point figure that out. Of course, by then it'll be old news, but
yeah, to get a straight answer,
what's he sending emojis?
That'll be something else too. BC, before we get you out of here, when you're taking a look at the numbers and roster management, how much do you think position, what a guy's listed as, how many they'll take, will it become more inconsequential or less as we move along, considering it's a staff that doesn't really care how they get you?
Mm-hmm.
They just trust how they're going to make you. Will we pay more or less attention to who's at what position and how many have been offered?
We'll probably pay the same attention because many of us are wired that way, and it's hard to cut through that wiring, I would say. But I don't know. I understand the question because I think we need to get more away from putting guys in categories or boxes with position labels. I felt that way for a while, really, about college football in general, because there's just so many hybrid talents out there now, and the game is really played at a high level when you have guys who are just versatile and you can move all over the place. But when you hear like Marcus Satterfield in an interview just straight up talk about like a positionless offense, and just, how everybody gets moved around, that should tell you right there, like take a guy like Kewan Lacey, like the days of like, oh, there's the running back. Well, yeah, he might be listed a running back on the site, but he spent as much time, it sounds like, talking to Garrett McGuire, and EJ Barthel. So he's going to be all over the field. Like a guy like Ernest Campbell would be, I think, all over the field. A guy like Bonner's obviously that way, but even on defense too, you're going to see that where I think at Tony White's scheme, especially since we haven't like seen it at Nebraska yet, it's like hard to say like, oh, that guy fits here specifically until you actually have the footage of what they look like in Husker uniforms in this defense and how they use certain, body types and all that stuff. So I think we're going to keep trying to do what you're asking about, but I don't know if we should as much.
BC, since we're in the summer, I want to ask you one summer question. The last thing from me, out of everything you heard from Coach Campbell on Sports Nightly this week, what stood out to you most in regards to the work they've done this summer and the goals that they've set moving forward?
I suppose just the this isn't a new thing for a team, but it's that idea of like this staff again buying into like you need these players to be the ones who really lead this squad, and they talk about having a player-led team. And I remember at the end of spring ball, MJ Sherman really speaking up about that, and of course he came from Georgia, which is on top of the world right now. But he was speaking on how, the great teams, they just have those guys who aren't afraid to hold the guy to the left or right of them, his feet to the fire, when they have to, and do stuff like that. And that's what you've got to become in these months of June and especially July now, as Corey Campbell talked about last night. This is actually a period where we might see the coaching staff a little bit slip off to the side not hear quite as much from them. It sounds like there's some time they might get to, have a little vacation time here after a busy June. And so it's all on like Campbell and that staff and those players. And it's like, all right, this is your baby. Let's see what you got. Who's going to rise up? Who's going to, I like the 10%er thing they're doing. You talked about the 10, 80, 10, and I thought that was interesting. You have your 10% that you just, these are the guys who show the way. And then there's that 80%. And the question is, how much of that pie of the 80% can you pull in? And then I liked how he even included the 10%. You got to know that too in that business. There's going to be that 10% who aren't bought in, and you got to know what to do with that too, and not let that affect you. So that was interesting.
BC, let me ask you something real quick on Gilbert. How long do you think the NCAA delays this, and do you have a sense on whether you think he'll be ready to go or not?
I've only heard optimism about it, but I've given up trying to pinpoint when the NCAA is going to do anything on something like that. So I'm hopeful that's going to come here in the next couple of weeks, one way or the other. What I do know is Georgia, I think, is pretty supportive of that too. He's been at two different schools. He's transferred twice, so that would be the reason why he wouldn't be able to do it. But I think there's an understanding. This is a guy that's worked really hard on himself, and I think there's a lot of people from the school he came from that are supportive of wanting to see him take off and succeed. And I would hope that would have a lot of weight.
BZ, before we let you go, I'm going to ask you about one of your favorites, Luis Arise, because yesterday on the show, I had asked, are you getting sick and tired of seeing that storyline, that narrative? Every time you turn on, say, Sports Center in the evening, you see the batting tracker, right? The batting average tracker for him. Are you getting tired of seeing that?
No, I like Luis Arise. I'll never stop having a heart for Luis Arise. In fact, everybody has criticized the Twins because they have new hats this year, and they're a little ugly. I bought one. It's got the M, and it looks like a Marlins M kind of. People are saying it's a Marlins knockoff hat with the star above it. But I figure, well, I got to support my boys and be loyal and buy their new hat that's out there on the shelves. But also, if it is Marlin-esque, I guess it'll go toward Luis getting toward 400. I'm sure he'll fade off, but he's a fun guy to watch. He is a famous at bat in Twins lore. You should go look up on YouTube. I think it was against the Yankees. He had to pinch hit when it was 0-2 count to a guy. Someone was throwing 101, and he worked the count like 14 pitches in and drew a walk. It's like the best at bat I've ever seen. Go look it up on YouTube.
That's pretty sweet. BC, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, B.
Thanks, guys.
Brian Christopherson, senior writer at Husker 24/7 at Husker 24/7 BC on Twitter. When we come back, we will talk to another friend in Lincoln, Kevin Sjuts. Although, is he on the road? Because yesterday I saw he went to a Cubs game.
Oh, he might be.
So maybe he's out in Chicago. Is he doing some peer recruiting?
Hopefully he's got some vacation.
We'll talk to the sports director at 10:11 now. Next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning and Drew Rogers. Happy to be joined by Kevin Sjuts, who is covering volleyball at the moment out in Chicago. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning. Trying to stay alive. The air quality here is horrible.
Oh, so we saw that yesterday on the news, and you're not joking. Like, that happened in a hurry. Is it the Canada stuff again, and it's made its way all the way there, or is it something else?
No, that's what they say. It's the Canada wildfires and the way that the jet stream has been working. It pushed it down. And, you know, we drove here to Chicago yesterday, and I would say around Des Moines, started to notice it, and it really got thick right as you hit the Missouri River. And, the Chicago skyline, you can see a little bit of it. It's kind of fuzzy. And then, I went to the Cubs game last night, and it wasn't terrible there, but still, just stepping outside, it's not right. And it's just kind of hard on the lungs a little bit. So thankfully, we're indoors all day today.
You sure it's not the coal fire pizza ovens that are in New York that the city's trying to shut down now because of all the carbon?
We're positive that's not it. Speaking of pizza, it's one of the great perks of being in Chicago, right? It's got to be on the menu today, I think.
That is true.
But I got to go back to this, though, Kevin, because I'm genuinely – I felt like when the air quality was an issue a couple weeks ago, you saw 3 Major League Baseball games canceled, and it was like, hey, listen, this is not good. Were you surprised that Listen, I know Marsh had a night last night for the Phillies, but were you surprised that they played that game? It looked flat out cloudy last night.
It did. I wasn't surprised they played it. I was following it as we were driving in too, that David Ross said that usually when they make a decision like that, it happens early in the day. I don't think anybody that made that decision realized how much it would intensify throughout the day. That's just based on some of the folks that I talked to here in Chicago yesterday about it, that, you know, it started in the morning and then it just got really thick in the afternoon and it hung around in the afternoon. And that's the way it is here today. Who knew that you would get air quality in Chicago talk on your radio show this morning? It's amazing.
Well, listen, we
sign us up for anything.
Listen, we got range, Kevin. I mean, inquiring minds want to know, and you're there doing something important. So why wouldn't we take advantage of your expertise?
And if you want to know about, 15U volleyball at the national championships, I'm your guy too.
Hey, so, is that why you went to Chicago, or did you go as like a family trip and you're like, I'll do some work while I'm here?
No. My daughter's volleyball team, they qualified, so they're playing this week. Starts today, runs through Saturday. So they're chasing a national championship, and I mean, you're going to see some amazing athletes. Just getting here to this point is a big deal, no matter what the division you're in. And we even saw Maddie Kubik's little sister in Kansas City at one of the qualifiers, and everybody's like, "Who's that girl?" And then you start talking. They're like, "Her last name's Kubik." And you're like, "Oh, this makes total sense. She's amazing." I believe she's either 13 or 14, but she's one of those athletes that you're like, I don't care the age. She can fly. She might be better than her sister.
No, and I went to more Nicole or Jamie than Nicole, but I know both of them really well. The whole family. It's like, are you guys serious? Like, you just. It just like it's in the bloodlines, and they're sensational. I mean, from top to bottom.
Yeah, no doubt about that. It's amazing. I think volleyball is one of the sports where you can identify really good talent really early, because some of the girls just get the game, and some are built a little different. Not to use the phrase that all the kids are using, built different, but truly some of these girls. Like, it's like incredible. I remember when my daughter was maybe 12 or 13, I even shot Coach Cook a note. I was like, here's a girl's name. Might be a little bit out of your recruiting range right now, but keep an eye on her. And he's like, already know her. It was amazing.
Yeah, so listen, they're recruiting, obviously, at a blistering pace. Just got another commitment last week as number one setter. And it's like, we compared volleyball at that time. This is a couple weeks ago, Drew Down. We compared volleyball. We said it's a lot like basketball sometimes, where once sights are set in early, though, a lot of times those players don't waver. We've seen basketball change the last couple of years. They do continue to be recruited. Volleyball, though, it just, once it's locked in and folks say yes, is it just me, or do other schools just kind of have a gentleman's and gentle people's agreement that the recruitment is over?
Davey, that's a really good point. I think that's kind of it. Now, granted, there's the volleyball rules are different with the contact, and you have to wait until the whatever the June date is, entering your junior year. But that's where, like, John Cook was so I don't know. He just thought of that dream team camp. Hey, let's get the best players in the country in our gym. And I think, even though they're not recruiting there, they're watching.
Yeah.
And, they're on the courts of so many of these club tournaments. And, we've been to some of these events where you just look down and it is a coach from USC, UCLA, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Creighton. You're like, okay, it's no joke. I think you just watch it and you're like, every one of the girls on that court is Division I. Now, those coaches may not know where the girls are going, but you at least know who they're going after. So, but you think back to the Rolfson twins, like they committed as 8th graders. So were other teams pursuing them? I think it was pretty much like you were saying. It was, they're Nebraska girls. They're going to go to Nebraska. Mm-hmm. That's their dream. John's got them. And, in volleyball, it's different. You don't have as many scholarships to try to fill. So, you're looking for just a couple specific positions for each recruiting class. Very rarely are you looking to fill with 6 players. Sometimes it's just 2 or 3, and you know exactly what you need at that time. Now, it could have changed because of the transfer portal and, roster attrition, and the way it is now. But overall, I think you're right on that. When the players make their commitment, it's like, all right, let's find the next best center out there. Let's find the next best libero on the market.
Kevin, we're talking.
It's not like I think Bergen Riley's going to go someplace else, right? Like I'm pretty sure I think she's set with Nebraska. It's just I kind of like it in that regard and you're seeing if the sport is so explosive with so many good players, it is the one sport that seems like there's plenty to go around.
I think that's so right about there's so many good players. So why would a recruiter waste the energy trying to sway a kid as opposed to just go get the next really good kid? Because there is just talent everywhere nationally. And thankfully, I've been blessed to be able to watch a lot of this just following my daughter as she gets older and continues to play the sport.
So, Kevin, along those lines then, what's the separator from a good and a great player? Because if there are so many that you can just say like, no, I don't need to go after you. I don't need to be as hard pressed to get you. I can just get her. Like, what is the separator of a good and a great player?
You're going to love this, guys. It's the clutch gene, because
I'm with you.
They can all fly, but who can make the play when it matters most? Because so many of these matches, it's 2020, it's 22, 23. Who can come up with the points at the end of each set? Because when you get to this level, everybody is good, but there are some girls that they just go to in the moment and they can get the point no matter what it looks like. And I would say the other separator for a team is having a good libero, having somebody on the back row that can just pull those balls up and keep the rally going. Man, that's where I think Nebraska really hit a home run getting Carrie Linebach. She's not big, but she is amazing, and she can just fly all over the court. So excited to see what Nebraska can do with her in a Husker uniform in a few years.
Along the same lines, but I'm going to transition sports. Because I'm with you on the clutch gene. I talk a lot about winning and being a winner and knowing how to win in football when you're looking for players that can help your program. I know the tail end of Coach Frost's career, they really wanted to focus on guys that had experience winning. He kind of got away from the stars and wanted to talk guys that knew how to win. When you're looking at kind of how this class is coming together for Coach Rule, do you see more substance than style, or are you kind of getting a little combination of both?
I'd say maybe a combo of both. I think we're still learning that. It's hard to answer at this moment because the class, they're on a heater right now recruiting-wise. And we'll see what happens with Carter Nelson here today. But, they're in whether he chooses Nebraska or not, which I think he will, they're just in a really good group. And they're looking for guys that fit their blueprint. And we saw the same thing, in my opinion, when they hit the portal and they were looking for a specific quarterback. They weren't going to take anybody. They wanted a guy like Jeff Sims who can run, who can throw, and is durable. That's important in the Big Ten.
Kevin Sjuts, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much. Enjoy Chicago. Stay safe and have some fun watching volleyball.
I'll bring you back to pizza, boys.
I'll hold you to that. I'll hold you to it.
Thanks, Kevin. See, we got a lot in. I like his range.
Yes, we did. Kevin Sjuts, sports director at 1011 now. Talk about the clutch gene.
I talk about it all the time. I'm telling you, it matters.
Who has the clutch gene? Micah Parsons?
I can't believe he's on this morning.
We'll be back.
Weird coincidence.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 3 minutes. A Hurrdat Sports Network production. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
We will be hanging out with some co-workers of ours this afternoon to celebrate the College World Series, and we'll stop by a bar. Maybe we'll have some zip line while we're there, because zip line's everywhere. You don't just have to go to the downtown Omaha tap room. You don't just have to go out in Lincoln to find Zipline Brewing. No, you can find it in stores, you can find it in bars, and you can enjoy an ice-cold Zipline beer. The dear old Nebraska brew may be my favorite of their collection, their selection. I just like how it goes down. It goes down so smooth, and it's not a beer that I'd say like, hey, I'm going to get drunk on, but it's a beer that I could have a lot of, and it still tastes good all the way through from start to finish. Check out Zipline Brewing.
It's a lot of detail.
I like to go into detail.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like to open up. You know, I was telling you, what grinds my gears?
No. Well, actually a lot, but
what
in particular this morning?
I hate when there's two things that really make me mad. One is probably not sports related, and the other one is. I'll start with the one that is. What grinds my gears is when somebody latches on to one piece of something 10 times bigger than that piece. And if that piece relates to something in the past that they didn't like,
they just can't get over it.
Then that's what blankets everything else.
Por ejemplo.
And so I was looking in things about in-state recruiting and just kind of recruiting in general, and like comparisons to the former staff and with the new staff, and how people really like how things are being done with the new staff, but arguments are made for the old staff like, hey, we saw this before. But then it had me thinking well, nobody really liked how the old staff operated, especially in state. And you ask anybody that question, and they're probably 98% of the people that you talk to are going to say the same thing. And that's including coaches in the high school area. Mm-hmm. That's including players. That's including parents, whatever. So it's a lot more than just this. It's a lot more than just signing kids. And that's kind of like the argument that I saw rested on when I was, just doing some basic scrolling last night, some basic research. It's a lot more than just that. Like you have to, for one, find the kid, find the guy, reach out to them. Then you have to build a relationship with that person. Then comes the signing, the commitment, if that player wants to play for you. But it doesn't just stop there. Then you have to develop that player. Because when you talk about in-state recruiting as a whole, what does it come back to? Were they successful at the university? It's not about, hey, did you get the guy? It's were they successful? And that's where the development piece is so much bigger than everything else. And that's what really bothers me, because by going back to previous staffs and acting like 1 to 2 years speaks for the entire thing. Like, look, when you get hired to a new job, take yourself out of football here. When you get hired at a new job, you can't tell me that day one you're excited to be there, right? Or you're not excited to be there. You can't tell me that you're not excited to be there, because you are. Because you have this fire inside of you. You want to start something. Year 1, year 2, you're feeling good about your job. You're really excited to do this activity for the next 365 days. But by year 3 and 4, that's when you really get tested, because that's when a lot of people are like, do I really still love this thing? Like if it really is weighing on you in any way, do I love this? Like, can I see myself doing this for another, 5 years? Another year, another 10 years, whatever it is. Like, those are the points that I grade. So that's why I don't ever go back to the previous staff and think, hey, year 1 and year 2, that's where I rest with, hey, they did it too. Because it's a lot more than just the 1 and 2
And you're
year.
Talking about in-state recruiting, right?
In-state recruiting.
Because they had Cam Jurgens, they got Henrich, they got Chris Hickman. Who else was local? I'm probably drawing a blank, but I do remember them hitting Garrett Nelson. Who else was in there? Snodgrass.
There are in-state guys
Piper.
that you hit on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking that away.
And then it kind of dissipated a little. Yeah. Okay, I'm vibing with you.
So
early on they got off to a good start in state.
Right. So
then it kind of fell off. You're talking about,
but it's more than just, hey, they got guys in state. Like, it's so much more than just they got them.
You're talking about there's this whole development piece that we're not.
That's more.
Like we're
that's
not talking.
Right. You got to still do that. You still got to be able to strike gold with the guys that you bring in. So what I know people are looking at is this. Matt Rule can develop. You've seen it at other universities, which is why you probably get a lot of people saying like, hey, it's refreshing, right? It's nice that we're finally going to have this over the course of 4 years.
So you think they're speaking to more what they think the end game is going to be than the initial. So you want people to get off the whole, okay. You want people to get off the whole, well, such and such did it too.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking, well, you're giving these guys the benefit of the doubt because they've actually developed before. So it's in addition to not only they getting the guys, he's also had a track record of developing them too. So you should be even more excited.
Correct.
I understand. What got you started on the in-state?
I just kind of go down.
I mean, there has been a ton the last couple of weeks with in-state recruiting.
Right. And it was the hot streak, right? Because you get guys that are out of state that nobody really paid attention to. And they're like, people are like, I don't know, but you know what, I'm going to trust because they're talent evaluators. I'm not. And then you get the guys in state that are highly on recruiting boards, and you still have people saying like, I don't know, but I'm going to trust because they're talent evaluators. And so you watch this hot streak of recruiting over this patch of 2 weeks, and it had me thinking of out of state, in state, and then I'm seeing the things about in state, and then dating back to previous tenures of coaching staffs. And it's not just the Frost tenure; it's the ones that came before him too, that people are still like comping examples for. Ultimately, the point I wanted to get to was don't just take a piece of the pie and think that's a pizza. Like, no, that's a slice. The whole 8 slices equal the pizza. And so there's more slices in that box that need to be checked off in order to really have the conversation of in-state recruiting being a success.
Yeah, I think Sam kind of touched on it a little. I mean, he said a lot. And that Monday segment. But I think sometimes we have a tendency to be a little more critical of the people we know more about, right? So in-state wise, a lot of people have kind of seen guys play and they formulated opinions. There are some people that are even privy to like how the recruiting process actually played out. Like you weren't a guy was off your board a week ago, then he's back on. Some people are privy to that, so they're not as but then for every one
example,
there are people that are just happy that what's the end result? The end result is they're going to Nebraska. Well, sometimes people don't care about the why. They just because they're fast forwarding to what you're saying. Oh man, I trust this guy and this staff in terms of recruiting development. But I mean, I get it and it's frustrating, right? I always want to say, how is it good for this, but it's not good for that? Like, can we just look at it in its totality? That kind of stuff drives me crazy. But I don't know if you're ever going to get past that in like a fan base. I think that's kind of everywhere. And I just kind of think that's just generally how it goes with fandom.
I just want people to like really sit back and look at the whole picture. Like, don't just look at, the Mona Lisa and say, oh, her eyes are brown. Well, there's a lot of things in this picture that you could address. Like her hair is also brown. Like, she's wearing like a blue, whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, just don't focus on one thing. Take the whole thing for as it is. And until you have a reason to distrust, trust.
Yeah. I wish I would have known like I'm kind of getting it now, right? The compare and contrast and whatever. I mean, but is it because what you hear from coaches, like high school coaches? Hey, we haven't seen these guys. This is the first. We keep hearing the adult references. We had a junior college guy at Iowa Western.
Has a lot to do with it.
That's like, hey, we finally. But I want to make sure like we understand something here. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This is what other good coaches do. We just aren't used to it. So we don't really know how to take in the information. Some people are where you're at. Some people are overly critical and skeptical but at the end of the day, it's just because we're not used to it. But this is what, good quality staffs do. You go inside out. You have a culture piece. You have a dynamic that you want to adhere to. You have a process. You're typically good orators in terms of communicating your message. You talk about it in conjunction with your administration. You talk about pulling in the same direction. Like, those are just things that I think good businesses, good entities, good things that people have success at. It's just what they do. We've just been so dysfunctional for so long. We don't know how to digest the information. So we get the all-ins and then we get the skeptic. So I understand the scale that you're painting. Right. I just think because we're not used to it, and it's not just one regime, it's been over 20 years. Right. I know there's a lot of frustration. I think we don't know how to process the information.
Right. And maybe that's a lot what this is right now.
You're just not sure how to process it.
We'll take a break. We'll continue conversations next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Shame on you!
Hey, welcome back to the show. 888-638-4876. If you'd like to get involved at any point, DB, Andrew Rogers. The Omaha Storm Chasers are back today. It is Winning Wednesday, not whining like I said yesterday. Hopefully there will be no whining at the Storm Chaser game tonight. If you're in attendance until the end of the game, you'll receive a free club ticket or next best ticket based on availability, redeemable for the following Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday home game. I'd always recommend going Thursdays. Why? Because it's $2 day. It's also career day today at the ballpark. So if you're looking for something to do Wednesday night, you have nothing, go check out the Omaha Storm Chasers.
Yeah. And the messages, Lance says, I have zero concerns about Quinn Clark's comments. Takes guts and humility to kind of share that. I remember my parents dropping me up of my first fall camp at the university. I saw these juniors and seniors at the first practice, and I was like, what did I get myself into? And that was D3. Give me a young man with skills, work ethic, and grit. And a coach can work with that. Many young people have no idea what they can really do. Great coaches help them to see that. I just think Quinn was being real. Yeah, and I think it was just kind of a – and people I saw – so – I kind of went back and looked, and it started with Evan Bland's comments on Twitter, right? EB does a fantastic job. I think he's pretty underappreciated.
I think so too.
But he had some Quinn Clark comments, and then of course it went from there. But I think a lot of people, it can go either way. I don't think there's any blanket way. Like sometimes people self-assess on the fly and they say some things out loud, and it's like, they're just self-aware. Other people may take that into as, oh man, they're not this. Sometimes people say things. So what if he would have said, oh yeah, like I've thought all along about, dominating Power 5, and I knew I could do this all along. And some people may say, oh, he doesn't know what he's getting himself into, right? So
yeah, some people could, but I think more people would appreciate the belief.
Yeah. My point in that is the ability to assess real time can go either way, right? I don't know if there's a,
and that's why I asked if it was a reactionary response. Oop, did you lose me there?
Yeah, I did a little bit. Go ahead.
That's why you got me,
Nope.
Shane. We lost.
It's okay. We'll figure it out.
Oh, you guys are good.
Can you hear us still, Shane? Give me a thumbs up.
Yeah, you guys are good.
I can't hear him at all.
So what I was saying is that's why I was asking if it was a reactionary response, because I didn't know if it was overblown.
I just had to hear the context of how the question was asked.
So this is the quote that I got it from. It was, I didn't commit on the spot because I was unsure of my abilities being from Montana. I'm not playing against the greatest competition all the time and didn't know if I could be successful at Nebraska. It was a big leap of faith in my life. And so when I read that, I'm like, what
the world?
Do you not think you are what you can be, or are you leaving room for growth? Or am I just reading this and blowing it out of proportion? Because I didn't take into account until I heard BC's response and until I heard yours that it could just be a normal reactionary response of it. I haven't gotten offers yet from these universities. So it's cool. Like you know what? I didn't know if I'd see an influx of offers or if I'd get one or two, but I'm happy I got what I got.
And you're kind of hearing that, right? We heard what Guthrie said. Guthrie was like, hey, this was the first Power 5 coach to pay any attention to me. And that actually captivated him, right? So it's like with some of these guys that haven't had a ton of offers elsewhere, and there's a lot of them in the class, right? Where I think Gradney, some of these guys, like Nebraska's their best offer. And when that's the case, I think you're going to have some of that thought process, or kids are going to say those things out loud because they're just not used to how to process the information. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I'm probably more in the minority when I say like, oh my gosh, like he doesn't believe he can actually play here. But I would say what I do need to think about in this scenario is, or wonder about, the conversations that Nebraska was having with him and what they see in him, because they may see more than he sees in himself, so they can get more out of him when he gets there.
I think if I had to pick, I would pick the one. If it was the kid sees this, but the staff really doesn't, versus the staff sees this, but the kid really doesn't. If I was going to play the long game, I probably would take the latter. Even though you want to be intrinsically motivated, I think if I had to play the long game,
you'd rely on the people that can coach you there.
I would trust the adults in the room. Like,
because I've
seen so often where sometimes it just takes somebody believing in you.
That's a great point.
Because I think the more people that believe in you, you have a better chance for success than if you're the only one that believes in yourself. Because at some point, it just seems like you'll need some help. Wow, this thing is all over the place.
We are in, out, in. Oh, we're back in. What did you just do there?
I don't know. I just moved.
All right.
Just moved the court. So I don't know. I think that's one of those things that I think on the surface was fairly innocuous. We're just not used to hearing. Again, it's kind of like when we see good staffs do different things. I just don't think we're just not quite used to it yet. So we don't really know how to process it. I just think he's a young man just sharing thoughts real time in the moment. I think it's much ado about nothing.
Speaking of reactions, I'm not going to name drop here, but I was in conversations with somebody yesterday. And the other thing that I really dislike, and compared to any situation, compared to football, compared to life, just because one person did something doesn't give you a free pass to do the same thing. Okay. This is kind of like a different direction of where we were headed there. But nobody likes it happened to me and I didn't react that way.
Mm-hmm.
I
can't stand that.
Nobody likes that guy. What's being argued isn't how you took it. It's about how what you ended up taking at one point is how you then were the, aggressor in the next situation. Excuses aren't something that I'm looking for and that anybody's looking for. And like I said, it stems from something a little bit deeper, but maybe tying it back to the whole thing of what we were talking about is, to say that the way Coach Rule is going about his business in state or out of state with whatever, if it's the Quinn Clark stuff, if it's the other guys that are no names on the list, or if it's like the high profile guys in state, all in all, you're seeing a night and day difference of how things are just being done, right? I would not have expected, based on the Quinn Clark situation, that, hey, an offer is there. If I only read what I read versus what I, learn over the course of us talking and just over the course of time. But it goes back to kind of just what I was saying. If it doesn't align with you, if it doesn't align with the efforts that Nebraska is putting forward, well, I'm not going to make an excuse until there's a reason for me to be critical. Does that make sense?
No.
So I guess put it this way. If things end up just like Nebraska years before, I'll agree with the, hey, I can make an excuse about the in-state recruiting.
You're talking to people in particular that I'm not aware of their vantage point of the conversation. So I'm trying to kind of figure out, something's obviously bugged you. That is a sentiment out there, and I'm not sure what it is. I don't know what's bugging you that has you on this recruiting thing about past regimes versus current regimes.
Well, what I said during the last segment was the in-state stuff. This I said was a little bit different. Remember how I said one's more football related, the other one is kind of more life related. So they're kind of two things, and maybe I'm trying to merge something together that's not there. Maybe it'll become a Dingman's car accident. Who knows? But I just don't believe it's going to happen with everything I've seen out with this new staff. I just don't think.
What isn't going to happen?
The failure.
Oh, okay. So you want people to be more optimistic about the plan of attack as opposed to. I'm trying to piece this thing together.
I don't think we need to make excuses right now for certain things. I don't think we need to
justify this recruit.
Yeah, we don't have to do anything right now because we don't know.
That's fair.
BC said it. The first guy in 2024 was February. We're not even halfway through a year, and we're looking at it from a bunch of vantage points, which is good. I really like. I really like kind of trying to craft an opinion and base it off of stats or previous knowledge. I'm cool with that, but in the same light, I also want it to be a grain of salt. I don't want it to be the whole shaker. It's just not it. So I'm kind of bugged by a few things, and it kind of hit me at 8:30. So
I just wish
maybe that's why
I'm trying to help you out here. I just don't know like what got under your skin.
Just people. I think it's just people, man.
It's
people close to me, people not.
The recruiting thing and valuing talent and being critical or overly
making excuses, things like that.
But or just believing just for the sake of believing, like that stuff just kind of is what it is, right? Like, it's opinions are going to make the world go around. And I think to let that move your needle one way or the other, and I'm not saying just you specifically, to let that move your needle one way or another, I think is way premature, right? Just because even if I'm talking about a no-star guy or versus a star or, a 4-star guy, I mean, whatever, if you watch tape and we're putting faith into what, a handful of guys do in terms of quote unquote watching film or evaluating a guy, like those are just a few people, right? It's not really the end all be all, right? Oh man, when's DK going to get the 4-star? Or, how did a guy that's only done something one, like you go round and round. Lacey, right? People say, man, how's Lacey only a 3-star? See, to get into that kind of stuff or local versus, out of state, like those things don't ultimately matter in the short term. Because what's ailed Nebraska over the last 18 years is boils down to a couple things. Execution in crunch time, player development, and consistency of the program. None of it has really been about talent. So to get into the talent discussion without us really being handicapped with the facts is kind of futile. Because where this staff needs to be good and where Nebraska's got to make up ground is you have to be better in critical moments. Okay. You have to develop what you have because you have to do it. Your margin of error is not as great as some that have elite level talent. So your development has to be a little bit more efficient. So you need more room to grow. The way that you do that is you have more people in the fold. Well, didn't get that one. Got to move on to the next. That one didn't really pan out. Got to move on to the next. So you need to get 7 out of 10 guys ready versus 3 out of 10 and hope that those 3 stay healthy. And then the other thing is, what's the end game supposed to be? Like, who are we supposed to look like when we're playing and we're playing at
who do you want to be?
Like, who are we? See, those are the things that have eluded Nebraska.
Well, a lot of people
it doesn't have a ton to do with, in my opinion, star rankings, or because we've seen guys that are valued high not pan out. We've seen guys, kind of lower level guys. Look, it took Trey Palmer, who was highly touted at a really, really good school, the opportunity to be someplace else like Nebraska to start to see his full potential. Do you know where that came from? It came from people believing in a fresh start and a different kind of scheme. Like, who's to say that can't be some of these players in the program currently, regardless of what we feel like their talent level is? Those are the things that have plagued Nebraska. It's not how many 4 and 5 stars they're getting. It's situationally, if you just look at where they've been the last 15 years, it hasn't been about talent. And until it starts to be about that, I think it's wasted energy to get into those conversations.
Yeah. So
that's just me.
Thanks for guiding me through that.
I still don't know what's bugging you, but I mean, hey, that's just kind of how I feel.
I'll tell you later.
All right.
Well, I'll let you decide if that's a conversation that we come back with.
Yeah.
But What was I going to say? Oh, I was going to say something. And
Shane, let's do
just lost my
something. Let's
mind.
go. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll get our composure, and we'll finish this segment. Can we take a quick break, Shane? Can we do that?
No.
We can't?
No.
Why can't we?
Because you're on hard breaks.
Hard outs.
Well, that's
I'm
okay.
all about having some guys.
I thought you were
No,
going to say sex.
no.
So Shane.
Oh, he's going to play drop. Where was that drop?
Wait, when did I say that?
I mean, that dude could eat me.
What?
Big Cubs fan, right? Yep, they did win. I'll put my money on Omaha.
The amazing Daniel on social media. I probably shouldn't read this. I don't know if this adds fuel to the fire or not. People want to make such a big deal about some simple comments, and then we wonder why some athletes would rather not talk to the media at all. Not a shot at the media, but at the way people extrapolate what they want from the answer. Maybe that's probably more what we're talking about, because I think Evan was just fact-finding, right?
Right.
I think he's just telling a story, and then it's up to us to do with the information what we will.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about just interpretation, and that's the beauty of sports writing, sports radio, whatever.
Yeah. And remember, I mean, these guys are
people are willing to have their own opinion on things, and it sparks good conversation at the end of the day.
You guys are like 18 to some are 7, Jalen 17 to 22 years old, so I mean, there's a lot out there in terms of range and potential.
Now, I saw this yesterday. Maybe this is how I can get back into it.
Yeah, do something.
Jumping jacks. Well, this is talk that you hate, so I'm going to bring it up. I saw CBS Sports. Was it 2 days ago? I'm not really sure on the actual time or day, but they predicted how seasons would pan out for the Big Ten teams. And this was the first article that I saw where Nebraska was given 7 wins. Like every other article I've seen was 6 max. I've seen a lot of 5 and 7s, some 6 and 6s, but I saw a 7 and 5. And do you think that's because of the traction that's being picked up through recruiting for Nebraska?
I don't. I think a lot of it, at least for me, is how you land on the swing games. Like, for instance, the difference between 6 and 7 could be if you think Nebraska beats Minnesota. If Nebraska beats Minnesota, you could paint there's an easy path to get to 7, right? Like, and you have some of those swing games in there. I don't think it's a huge leap of faith to go +1 in that win column. I think everybody that's doing the forecasting and prognosticating has that swing game in the schedule that if Nebraska wins, gets them to that mark. Coincidentally, if you're a 6 and 6 guy, the difference between 5 and 7 and 6 and 6 could still be that one swing game, whatever that game is for you.
That's a good point. I also think the national belief has something to do with that, because there is a lot. I mean, I've been seeing podcasts from all across the nation, radio hosts, sports personalities, whoever, saying like, just based on the recruiting class, like Nebraska's getting there. Like, people are falling in love with that.
But the funny thing is like that. I just read a couple of days ago where Nebraska right now was at like an 87 star rating composite, which was like the lowest since 2015 or 2016. So are we really happy, or are we putting too much stock
in the number
and things that aren't ultimately really going to matter?
Yeah, that could be. I mean, but you're seeing that, in recruiting with guys commenting on, how this coaching staff wants to win and everything. Cause like, that's a big thing. Like I've been seeing a lot of things that, like, even from recruits too, like I get the sense that they want to win. And like, yeah, of course everybody wants to win, but how much are you like broadcasting that when you're on visits and things like that? And then you see, things from articles that finally acknowledge the work that's being done in state, opposed to being like the laughing stock of the Big Ten West. And then you're seeing that within this state, I haven't been a part of the woes and the frustrations like a lot of other people, but, of how it affects the fan base. this is really what I kind of landed on with the whole schedule 7 and 5 thing. Like when Coach Rule wins, and you kind of said something a couple of days ago, like all hell will break loose in the state if he wins.
Yeah.
But like when he wins, not only will the state go berserk, we're going to be a part of something really fun over the next 8 years.
Yeah,
like it's not just
because you figure
thing for
he's
me.
only going to get better, and he doesn't want to be anyplace else. Like he wants to be here. Like he's making plans for the long haul. I mean, just the family school situation set up. Like he's banking on the long haul. You talk about the difference between 5 and 7 and 6 and 6 versus 7 and 5. Like if you pencil in this hypothetical, let's say you pencil in Colorado, Northern Illinois, La Tech, Northwestern, Maryland.
Yes, sir.
That's 5 wins.
That's 5, right? Iowa's at home. Swing game?
Yep.
Is Maryland a swing, or is Minnesota a swing game, or do we think Minnesota wins? I think right now we think Minnesota wins.
Just because it's the first game for Rule. What about Purdue?
Purdue is, I think that's the 6th win for most people when they just go down the middle. So my point in like a Minnesota, an Iowa, that's the difference in perception. Like, why shouldn't Nebraska be able to beat Iowa at home if they beat them on the road last year? Well, obviously the answer to that is different players, different year. But the easy low-hanging fruit would be, they can win that game. We won in Iowa last year. We just know sports doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we like talking about history, and we started the whole conversation with that. If we look at the history of that matchup, I don't know if you want to date it back 10 years.
Yeah, not going anywhere with that one.
All right, when we come back, we'll change gears. We will talk the NHL, the draft, the trades, and more. That's next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning and Drew Rogers. Sorry for the little hiccup. Let's just kind of go. Things were fresh.
Oh, fudge.
I've worked it out with myself. I've spoken to my therapist who sits in the other chair. I'm good.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. Self.
Let's go to the phone now, Shane, and talk to TSN Sports Calgary Bureau reporter Salim Valji at Salim Valji on Twitter. Good morning, Salim.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I've got a lot of experience with being north of the border and Toronto and Canada in general. So, man, anytime I hear TSN, the monster up there north of the U.S., I'm happy. I'm happy about it.
Yeah, it's a great place. I've been here for a couple of years, and I mean, there's always a little bit of drama going on in Calgary. So I feel like I've been called by different producers and radio stations a lot recently. So
nothing wrong with that.
Let me stay local here just for a second. Local as in relative to Omaha and the NHL before we get to the draft. Surprised that the Blackhawks aren't taking it lying down. Like, this is a proud franchise, one of the OGs of the NHL. How about the moves they're making right out of the gates? Could Chicago be back?
I wonder, hey, like Taylor Hall coming in as insulation for Bedard, and I think people are speculating that even a guy like Vladimir Tarasenko could be.
He's got to be on the move.
Chicago, and they seem like they're going about the quote unquote responsible way with draft picks and young players, but maybe they'll surprise people. Like, maybe they will shock people and be better out the gate. We saw that a little bit with Arizona last season. People expecting them just to take it lying down, but they were a lot more competitive. The Blackhawks have a lot more resources than the Coyotes. So I wonder maybe if they will be a little bit better than we thought they would be. And maybe this team could surprise people. Honestly, like anything could happen, but Taylor Hall's a really good player, and that's certainly not the only piece that they'll add. And when you factor in the sensation that's coming in Bedard, maybe the Blackhawks will be the Cinderella story of the league.
Bedard finished the 2022-23 season leading all of junior hockey in goals, assists, and points. A surefire slap shot pick. This seems like a ridiculous question to ask you, Salim, but do you think there will be any growing pains for the 17-year-old once he makes it into the league?
No, that's a fair question. I mean, I don't know. Maybe on the ice, guys tend to talk about how much faster they have to process the game. So, I mean, there's no doubt to me, Bedard's got the skill, the hockey mind, the physicality, all of that. I kind of wonder if initially it takes a little bit of time for him to understand, reading an NHL forecheck, or just how little time he has with the puck in his own zone, or making certain reads, because players are so much quicker and faster and process the game at such a higher level than junior hockey. So I kind of wonder if that's a little bit of something he adjusts to. But beyond that, maybe, and he seems like a great kid. I worked ringside one of the games that he was in Calgary, and I got to know him a little bit. He seems really grounded, great family. I wonder if sort of the gauntlet of being a face of the franchise, taken over from two legends, you're in a hockey mad market. Like, I wonder if that, at times, it seems like it's been overwhelming to a lot of different, players for understandable reasons. So I wonder if that's another huge adjustment. But I mean, it seems like this kid's going to be great for a long time, and I think everyone in the league will benefit.
Whether it's Leo or Will or even Fantilli, it seems like a lot of these top 5 guys in the draft, we see playmaking, and then it's like, okay, how about learning to play in traffic areas, or kind of limiting turnovers with the puck? How much, when you look at the NHL game, it seems like it's a lot more open ice now, especially compared to 8-9 years ago. Scoring is up. How much of the transition with young guys to the way that the game is played is about being able to operate a little quicker, even though it seems like you're playing in more space now?
Yeah, that's a great point, right? And the league recognizes that offense sells, right? Like, those top 10 highlight reels, that's what's going to get you new fans, especially in the States. I think it's a lot more open ice. I wonder about, just because players are faster, quicker, everything like that, just it might be more open ice, but you have less time to make decisions, because like, what are guys working on in the summer? It tends to be skating. So, their closing abilities on a player in open ice, they can get to that player so much quicker than maybe 10 years ago. So there's more open ice. So I think guys being leaner, faster, quicker, the fact that, players that are 150, 160 pounds can thrive in this league right now. And that's kind of crazy to say, given sort of the dead puck era and other times in the league where that just seemed crazy. So it's more open ice, but I think because players tend to emphasize skating so much during their off-season training, they tend to be on the ice 2 weeks after their season's done, that decision-making with the puck in open ice is so much quicker. And to me, that's something that, young players, they seem like they have a little bit of an adaptation process, and you have to think the game at such a high level. But, the open ice is one thing, but the decision-making when you have the puck in that open ice seems so minute now, given just such high-end skating and skill abilities right now.
I want to go quickly back to Bedard, because I'm a gambler, Salim, so I like to I like to have,
as are
like,
we all.
Right.
He's a little different, though. He takes it to another level with how he can piecemeal scoring and different parlays.
This is where I'm going with this. Okay, so we know Bedard is a true scorer. Like, that is like the best part of his game. Now, for reference, McDavid scored 16 in 45 games in his first year, but 30 in his first full season. Matthews dropped 40. McKinnon dropped 24, and I'll even throw DeBrincat in here since he started his career as a Hawk, and he had 28 goals. So as a rookie, if I set his over-under, if I set Bedard's over-under, scored for the season at 33.5, which would you take?
Put me on the spot here. I would take the under. I think it'll be a little bit less. I was actually thinking it would be in the DeBrincat range, and not because he's a former Blackhawk, but I look at just the powerful release there, and I think they're about they're about the same size. But I look at Bedard kind of being a little bit more in that DeBrincat range. And I would say 28. I'll go with 28 goals for Bedard in his rookie campaign.
So at least 28 games. I'm betting Bedard to score.
Salim, I want to stay north of the border here just for a second because you talked about Tarasenko and some guys kind of may potentially being on the move. When you look at
a Hawk,
like, I want to take a team like Toronto, for example, just because I have a lot of experience in that city. How much do they need to make a move? I understand what happens with your general manager and making a move in the front office, but how do the pieces need to move to restore order north of the border, considering there's such pride taken in what Canada's doing from an NHL standpoint, but still trying to figure out ways to raise Lord Stanley's Cup?
Do you mean just for Toronto? Or
yeah, in general, Toronto in general, as it relates to, because I think they're the fave, right, to be the best representative north of the border, right?
Yeah. So I think in Toronto's case, they need a little bit more meanness and sandpaper on the back end, and they had that. Like, Jake Muzzin was such a key piece for them, right? And he was sort of a big leader as well, by all accounts. So I look at Toronto and I see a team that could use that throwback stay-at-home defenseman, you know, like the players that we kind of talked about maybe are getting phased out, but they do have a role, right? And it's not players that can't necessarily play. It's just defensemen that are tough to play against, that really make life challenging for skilled forwards in the defensive zone. Maybe they don't contribute a ton offensively, but I look at the Leafs and I kind of see a void there. And in terms of, like, you know, it's been 30 years, guys, and I've wondered in the past, like, you know, Canadian kids growing up, they don't really have that parade that they remember going to with the Stanley Cup and everything, right? Like, it's a couple of generations now that have missed that. And for Canadian teams, I think it comes down to, you know, in Calgary's case, maybe investing more in player amenities. Like, we have the oldest rink in the league, and that doesn't help. You know, making sure families are taken care of. You know, and I know that the media pressure in some of these places is tough, and I wonder how teams can kind of alleviate that, how they can protect their players better, how maybe it's providing kind of different mental health resources. I don't know, but when it comes to the Leafs getting that stay-at-home defenseman and then throwback guy, and then for Canadian teams, it's, you know, how can you support your players better, more player amenities, because it has been so long since we've had a parade here, and I think that is starting to affect kind of how fans are growing up here and the popularity of the game a little bit.
Salim, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much. This was great. We'll talk again soon.
Yes, sir. Enjoy the draft tonight, gentlemen.
Hey, you too. That's Salim Valji, TSN Sports Calgary Bureau reporter. We're playing a new game, Gone in 60 Seconds, next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning. We'll be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Now, normally you would hear the 2-4-U show open coming back here, but we're doing a new game today, and it's called Gone in 60 Seconds.
I talked to my guy Brian this morning
Demons
too.
Collision Center.
He didn't feel like winning. Who are these people, and
I don't
why are
know.
they here when it's not open?
I think they're going to a different one, a different place.
Could she have parked further from where they were going?
No, she couldn't. Okay, so this is the point of this game.
Just worried about if we're beating prep and 7-on-7. No, I'm kidding.
So first, Dingman's Collision Center, your one-stop shop for all your car needs. They can fix anything. They can refill anything. In fact, I have an oil change awaiting me at Dingman's Collision Center. Can't wait to go check them out in person and bring back an even better story, because I know that every time you're there, there will be something new that you just have to tell somebody about. It's Dingman's Collision Center. The game Gone in 60 Seconds is this, DB.
Do I need this?
No, I'll keep track for you.
Okay.
Because if you write down, I think it'll slow you down.
Okay, maybe.
But you can have it as a handy tool. I'm going to give you a prompt, okay? You'll have 60 seconds to give me as many names as you can in that prompt. Let me get my stopwatch out, because I don't think Shane's got a timer over there. I don't know if 60 seconds will be enough time, but I'm going to see how many you get. DB, here's your prompt. I'll give you a chance to think about it. NFL all-time leading passers by franchise in 60 seconds.
NFL
all-time leading passers by franchise in 60 seconds. So this isn't hey, this person moved on to this team and all of those numbers carry over. It's just with that team.
So I'm going
to give you a team name.
I want the team. Okay.
And then you give me the player. You can pass too if you're like, I don't really know. I want to get as many as I can, because, there's
okay.
What is it? What is it in Spanish? 20? Is 20 20?
20 is 20.
So 30.
30, that's 30. Gotcha. All right, I'm ready.
I got there. All right, 1 minute on the clock. All of you listening on the stream, take a guess how many DB will get right out of the 60 seconds. DB, your time begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Arizona Cardinals.
Jake Plummer.
Atlanta Falcons.
Matt Ryan.
Baltimore Ravens. Buffalo Bills.
Nah, Tony Flacco. Or Flacco.
Okay, Buffalo Bills.
Jim Kelly.
Carolina Panthers.
Terry Collins.
Chicago Bears.
Jim McMahon.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Ken Anderson.
Dallas Cowboys.
Reluctantly, Roger Staubach.
Cleveland Browns.
Brian Sight.
Denver Broncos.
John Elway.
Detroit Lions.
Matt Stafford.
Green Bay Packers.
Aaron Rodgers.
Houston Texans.
David.
Timer. Okay.
God, that's
so
tough.
I'm going to keep going through these because I don't know if a minute's enough, because I could have probably given you a lot of easier teams first, and because those were hard. Like some of those are hard.
Why you wanted me to say Neil Lomax? Or
I'm going to keep going through these with the timer off, and then we're going to go back.
For the Cardinals?
Yeah.
So you answered Houston Texans, correct? That last answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Indianapolis Colts.
Peyton Manning.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mark Brunell.
Kansas City Chiefs.
Ooh.
You know what? Hold these thoughts. I'm going to go through these answers, and then we're going to do it again with the remainder. Because I'm going to see how many more you get right. I'm going to say you knocked off 5 seconds there.
Okay.
With those, so you get 55 seconds on the next turn.
Okay.
All right. This is how many you got right. 7 out of the first 4, 5, 6. 7 out of the first 13 you got correct.
That's it?
Jim Hart is Arizona Cardinals.
Okay.
You got Ryan, you got Flacco, you got Kelly. Carolina is Cam Newton.
Wow.
Chicago is actually Jay Cutler. Yeah, you can laugh.
No, that's cool. Okay. That's okay. He had I sleep on, people forget Cutler was a Bear. I sleep on that.
Dallas, Tony Romo.
I thought about that after I said it.
Green Bay is actually Brett Favre.
That was close. That's why I paused.
Yep. And Houston is Matt Schaub.
Ah, interesting.
So you already answered Indianapolis and Jacksonville. Shane, can we get the music going again here? Another 60 seconds.
This is kind of rapid fire.
For the next grouping.
Okay.
You good to go?
Yep.
60 or 55?
Well, it's going to be 55 seconds. Thank you, Shane. Keeping me honest. In 3, 2, 1. Kansas City Chiefs.
I'll go Mahomes.
Las Vegas Raiders.
Derek Carr.
Chargers.
Fouts.
Rams.
Jim Everett.
Dolphins.
Dan Marino.
Vikings.
Fran Tarkenton.
Patriots.
Tom Brady.
Saints.
Drew Brees.
Giants.
Phil Simms.
Jets.
Got a lot of bad ones. Ken O'Brien.
Eagles. 6 seconds.
Ron Jaworski.
Steelers.
It was Ben Roethlisberger.
I'll give you that one at the end. Okay. Do you think you did better or worse than first time around?
So 7 out of 13 is what, 45%? No, it is 60%. I did worse.
You had 14 answered this time, and you got
8.
You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right.
That's not bad.
9 out of 14.
All right, but go through them real quick.
Kansas City. Well, we started with the Colts and Jags. You got Peyton and Brunell. So
Okay.
nice work there. Chiefs, Len Dawson.
I didn't think he threw it enough, but he played for so long.
You got Derek Carr correct. Chargers is actually Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, makes sense. He's 55 or he's 50,000.
That is correct. Jim Everett, correct.
How
You
about that?
went on a heater here. Jim Everett, Dan Marino, Fran Tarkenton, Brady, Breeze, and then it was Eli for the Giants.
Yeah, and I said Sims.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Jets, who did you say?
I didn't. Oh, I said Ken O'Brien.
You did. Joe Namath.
Did he throw it enough?
Yeah.
God, they've had some bad quarterbacks.
Yes, they have.
Like all of them?
That's surprising to me.
Right.
Oh, guess you never know.
Joe Namath. Eagles, Donovan McNabb.
Yeah. I forget about D-Mac.
Yeah. He's easy to forget.
Because he's kind of maligned in that city's fan base.
That is true. And then Pittsburgh, Big Ben. So nice work there. Can't time this one. There's only 5 teams left. I'll just go through them. The 49ers.
Ooh, toughie. Young more than Montana. I'll go Montana.
Seahawks.
Dave Craig.
Tampa Bay. This one, when I went through it, stumped me.
Doug Williams.
Tennessee.
McNair.
And Washington.
Sonny Jorgensen.
Okay, you missed the final 4. We're going to go through them again. Seattle.
Okay. Warren Moon? No. He didn't play that long enough.
Jim Zorn.
But Warren Moon is an answer for one of them. It is not Jim.
And it's not Craig?
New guy.
Oh, Russ.
Yep. Tampa Bay. Also a new guy, which is why it stumped me. Because I said Josh Freeman initially.
How many 4,000-yard seasons did Brady have? 3? Oh, he didn't play there 2. It's 12,000. It can't be Brady. He only played
It is not Brady.
Who was in between? Trent Awful was there. Oh, Brad Johnson.
Nope. Former number 1 overall pick.
Testanurdi?
Nope. Keep going sooner. Like, when I say sooner, I mean closer to this year.
I don't know.
Jameis Winston.
Unreal.
He is their all-time franchise leading passer.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
That's crazy. He
It
did
is
that in
nuts.
4 years?
Uh-huh. You should look at the stats for Tampa Bay. It doesn't exceed 13 or 16,000.
I get it.
Tennessee, I gave you a hint here a minute ago.
So the Oilers must be okay, that's fine. Warren Moon.
Warren Moon. Yep. Yeah. And then the Commanders, or formerly known as the Redskins. Can I say that?
Theismann.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Fudge. I'm kind of mad at myself.
We'll do that again next week. No cheating, DB.
Dude, that's brutal.
With a different sport.
I would actually, that's fast enough where you could do it against someone and it would be very, very,
because do it with a caller.
Oh, it's rapid fire.
I feel like we could do that with a caller next week.
Oh, that might
line one up against the other.
I might like this one better than 2 for you. That's tough. It's because it's hard to think on the fly.
Well, it's also hard to date yourself as far back as you did. Like the Tarkington pick, where did that come from? That was well done.
Yeah, I also said Sonny Jorgensen. And didn't know Lynn Dawson.
Well, fun game. We will bank that game, and we'll play it next week.
Yeah.
Gone in 60 seconds. We may need to make an open for it. Shane, you're welcome. More work for you.
Yeah.
Maybe more work for Cam.
Got it over there, buddy.
Our big voice guy. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow. If you missed anything, go to the podcast page. It's Coffee and Cream.